name's Tori and I love to sew. So today I have made the Swoon Heidi small clutch. This is the small size. It comes with a zipper on the back and the magnet there and then a big zipper section. I make mine a little bit differently to the pattern, so if you'd like to see how I make it, please stay tuned. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is mark 3/4 of an inch down from your top flap and your bottom flap for the back. On this fabric I have used Formfuse 1600 from Spotlight for the outside and Birch heavyweight non-woven iron-on interfacing for the lining pieces. All my stuff is 100% cotton, and I have used, this is faux leather vinyl stuff from Spotlight. I think it's currently at like $20 a meter. It's thinner than normal vinyl, which would be good for domestic machines, but it's still quite sturdy and doesn't stretch, which means it makes a perfect little accent. I probably wouldn't use it on the base of a handbag though. Alright. So I use double-sided tape. You can iron this down. I just don't. I like double-sided tape. It means I get up from the from the sewing machine less. Alright. Just fold this over. Now because of the interfacing I use, it folds really easily because where the pen is, it makes like a little bit of a groove, which helps it to just fold in place. Okay. So now that I've folded those, I'm going to grab my accent pieces. I'm going to put my stitch length up to 3 3/4 just because I like the look of that. For vinyls and things, you actually want it to be a longer stitch length so that it doesn't perforate and wreck your vinyl. So I'm just going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. If you're finding that this is slipping on you, definitely use some double-sided tape to hold it in place. Stretchy vinyls will move, whereas this one's alright. If you've cut it accurately, everything should just line up for you. You don't have to backstitch this. I usually do. I know the first bit I didn't, but I have the rest of them. Alright. I really need new snips. Okay, so we now have our accent panels on our back and our front. And I forgot to cut zipper tape, so give me a second. My zipper tape is currently in a pile on the floor as my child destroyed it. So I actually make this pouch different to the way the instructions write it. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just I find my way a lot quicker and easier. So we're going to grab our pocket pieces. You should have 2 the same size. Oops. Now what I'm going to do, I cut 2 pieces of zipper. So the first piece I cut is 10 inches, which is the width of the entire bag. And then I've cut the appropriate size for the top bit. So what I do, lining right sides up, zipper right sides up, and we're just going to baste it in place. You don't necessarily have to back stitch. And I'm also basting on a longer stitch length because I'm about to use the longer stitch length for what I'm going to do. Alright. So now we grab our bottom piece with the accent and we're going to stitch this. So you're going to leave that like that, put it down, and then we're going to lie our folded edge in the middle of the zip like this. To make it invisible, we're just going to lie it on top and top stitch it down in place. So all I do is I line everything up, put the edge of my foot against the zipper tape, back stitch, because we don't want this to come undone, and then just sew a zip as normal. But we're only top stitching. So now, when we fold the back panel down, you don't have the top stitching here. We've got a top stitch along there. Super neat. So then we're going to do the same to the other side. So we're going to lay down our pocket piece and baste that in place. Now this is different from the pattern, but I like it like this. So then we're just going to butt your top piece up against the other one, and then that way that will hide the zipper to make it directly in the seam. So we make sure that our pocket piece is facing towards the bottom, and then we lay it down and just top stitch again, making sure we back stitch. And there you go. Completely enclosed zipper panel. Well, I've got more threads. Hold on. Alright. So now I'm going to put my zipper pull on. On the back, I go left to right, but you can put it whichever way you like. You just break your zipper open a bit, and then I've got a fork that holds the zipper pull. Apparently I don't have the skills today. There we go. And I just put my zipper pull in the middle. So now we're going to make sure that all the pocket pieces are down. You can see that they hang out past the bottom, but that's okay. We're going to fix that now. So we just want to stitch right in the seam allowance. We're going to seal off the end of that zipper and then just stitch along the edge so that all these pieces will now just be one, where there's no gaps. So I'm just stitching about 1/8 of an inch to make sure I'm within all my seam allowances. And then I'm just going to chop off the excess. So I've got a little bit of excess, but that was much quicker to make the back piece. So there we go. Now the front piece, we're going to turn it over and put in our magnetic snap. So I've got my stencils made out of MDF. These two holes are the marks for the magnetic snap. I just drilled them in. You can't use a rotary cutter around this, but you can draw with a pen, and because it's got a raised edge, it's a lot quicker to trace. You can buy from Bunnings the acrylic and make them acrylic-y, but it is very pricey. It's like $65 for a sheet. And then you still have to get someone to be able to cut it. Whereas hubby cuts these with just a normal jigsaw and it doesn't take him very long, which is awesome. Okay, so with a pen, mark where your magnets are going to go. And then I take the backing to mark the cut lines. And then you can either with your snips fold it over and snip the hole, which I'm going to do now, or you can do what I normally do. I've got a craft knife from the scrapbooking section, and you just stab that through. Now because this is all fabric, I'm going to use freeze staple glue. This one's just from Spotlight. Nothing fantastic. I think it was like $6 a bottle. But you only need the tiniest amount, and it comes out like water, so don't use a lot. Just a little tiny dab's enough. Make sure you put the lid on so it doesn't seal over and you're going to pick at it. Alright. Magnet. So you don't have to, but I always put the thicker one at the bottom. I don't think my hole was big enough. There we go. Gasket on the back. Okay, so that's now both our outsides prepped. This is my little side tab. So we're going to mark down the middle. I'm making a 1-inch strap, but you can get these funky 25mm rings from Spotlight in packs of 6. So I'm going to use that as the outside bit. So it's 25mm, but because it's not going to sit directly in the center, I only do a 3/4 of an inch strap because it sits nicer and looks prettier. Double-sided tape. I'll tell you what, I do go through a lot of that stuff, but it makes it so much quicker. Really? Until you stick it to the table. Oh no. Alright, fold it over in the center. You could also do this with fabric. Just make sure that you interface the fabric because it will take a lot of pulling and weight. So you want it to be firm. So I'm just stitched 1/8 of an inch from the center, which is just using the center of my foot as a guide. And put the ring on. Then I'm just going to baste it just under where the zip sits. You could just clip it, but it can't slide if you've sewn it down. Because sometimes if you just clip it when you're sewing, they go a bit wonky. And they'll sit like that instead. And this will make sure that it stays nice and flat. Okay, so we take our outside zip. Some people like to do zipper tabs. You can do that. You just make your zip a bit shorter. I, however, will not be. Get your wonder clips and pin the zip. So you want to go your inside, right sides up, your zip, right sides up, and then we're going to place the other part, right sides down. So you can use either. I always pick the lighter side, so because this has got less weight to it, this one will be easier to maneuver later. So I'm going to start with this side. Make sure you clip it all. And then I'm going to put my stitch length back down to 2.5. And I'm just putting my foot up against the edge of the zip. It's twist it around. We're going to top stitch just the top. So you're going to pull the top away. This bit can get a bit tricky because it is on an angle. You can also make your stitch length longer for this if you want to. But the idea of this is it's going to hold all your back stitching down to make it sit nicer. So on the back, our little seam allowance that we've got, we've actually stitched it down. So it's going to sit nice and flat when we pull that out. So again, I did 1/8 of an inch seam allowance just along the top there. So now we grab our other side. I love Wonder Clips. Alright, right sides together, make a sandwich. If you've cut your zip too long, that's okay. You just make sure that the edge of this one is lined up with the edge of the other side that you've already sewn down, and that'll make sure it's center. The other thing you can do is fold your zip in half, clip the center, and then clip the center of all your other pieces, and then just line up the clips. Oops. There we go. Now this one's always the trickiest because you've got the bulk of the other side. So you just want to open the one side. Make sure that seam allowance is under where you're sewing. So we're nearly done. Now we just need to put our other zipper pull on the top zip. Just crack it open a bit and thread it in. Some people put it upside down, some people put it right sides up. Just so long as it's on. Zip it 3/4 of the way. And then open that zipper back up. That way you can get in the bag later. Alright, so I'm going to line up the base first. I just put 3 clips in the base because it shouldn't move around too much. And then I make sure that the side accents are lined up. That's important too. If you need to, chuck another clip in. And with my zip, I stick my finger on the lining side and push it towards the outside before pinching it down. But if you've done zipper tabs, you shouldn't have that problem. Making sure everything's lining up. And then I put my little tag in the lining side. So I pre-iron, I chopped mine up. They come in a roll. I chopped mine up, iron them in half. It makes it easier to work with. So I'm just going to slot that in the lining side. Clip that down. Push the zip towards the outside edge. Clip it in place. There we go. So we are going to stitch, start here and go all the way around and then stop at this clip to leave a gap in the lining side. All the seam allowances are in the pattern. I leave a pretty big hole in the lining because I don't like to struggle to turn my bags out. And for the actual little bit of sewing you'll do, it's probably worth it. So I'm just going to trim off the seam allowance in the corners because that's going to help it turn out. So what I do, some people just snip at a 45-degree angle, but that tends to not work. So you've got to snip it at more, and then you'll get nice points. I'm also going to chop off the extra zip. There we go. So the best way to turn the bag is reach your arm in, grab a corner, and then just pull the corner in. And turn it inside out at a corner. Like I said, the bigger the hole you leave, the easier it is to turn. Make sure you push your corners all the way out, and then I run my finger along that seam because that's not a straight line, that's a nice gentle curve, and you want that to be seen once you've turned the bag out. I also push the corners out of the lining. Even though I'm going to reverse it and put it back in, it just helps everything be untangled. So now we're just going to close that by folding the raw edges in. If you don't mind hand stitching, you could hand stitch this shut to make it invisible. But it is at the bottom of the bag, so it's not really ever going to be seen. So you just stitch as close to the edge as you can without running off the edge. Push our lining down. Alrighty, so there's the bag part done. If you give that a good press, that's going to look a lot cuter than it is. So now we just need to make our strap. So I always do my wristlet straps 14 inches long. I have a 14-inch ruler. It makes my life very easy. And then whatever size you've decided to do your strap, put a line down halfway. I've already pre-ironed this. So this one is 1/2 inch smaller than this. So this is 2 inches and this is 1.5 inches. So when I fold them in half, you're going to see some of the black on the same side. This is my favorite way to do straps at the moment. Looks pretty, makes me happy. You should always do what makes you happy. Alright, so I'm going to fold them to the center. Because this is leatherette and not technically vinyl, it is thinner, which means it's easier to fold. If I was doing a handbag strap though, I would put either interfacing or some webbing inside this to give it more stability. the last thing you need is your strap breaking. Okay. So I'm just going to lay this down at the very edge and center it. If you're not good at holding things, you can either put an extra piece of double-sided tape down the center and hold it in place, or you can clip it. But I'm going to put my stitch length back up to 3 3/4 because it's decorative and it's nice, and because we're sewing vinyl, you don't want to stab too many holes in it. Alright, and then you just hold it in the center and stitch down each edge. There we go. You can see there's just a little bit of black on each side. And that strap's now ready to put a clip on. So let me just get my tool. I love my press. It makes me very happy. It's a bit heavy, but that's okay. It's designed to do that. So you just need one double capped rivet. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick whichever end I think looks nicer. Make sure that's on the outside. So I'm just going to put it on, fold it over, and then tuck this one up underneath it. So I've got a 3-layer sandwich like that, and then stab a hole directly in the center. If you find that if you've been using your hole punch for a while, if you twist it around, it'll make sure it cuts it all out. Put your post through, push the cap on at the back till it clicks, and then just push it down. There you go, rest of the strap.